Hi everyone. This video will review the case study assignment for the course Theories of Career Development. The instruction package you see on the screen can be downloaded from D2L under Course Assignments and Due Dates, and you may want to have a copy of this on hand in digital form or hard copy so you can make notes on it as you watch this video to highlight any important points you want to remember. This assignment will be done in two parts. You'll be analyzing a case study and submitting your analysis in week 3 for part 1 and in week 6 for part 2. Each part is worth 15% of your final grade for a total of 30% of your final grade. It will be the same case study and client for both parts, but you will analyze the case using different theories and concepts from the course based on the chapters that you're reading each week. There will be different questions to answer for part 1 and part 2. This video is only going to cover part 1, and I'll post a separate video for part 2, which you can watch when it's time to begin working on that part. Your responses should be about 700 to 900 words in total for each part. So this means that if I'm looking at part 1, the questions that you're going to answer, all of your responses combined should be about 700 to 900 words. And please do it in double-spaced format. This word count does not include a title page or a bibliography. And really, for your bibliography, the only reference you would have would be the textbook. You really don't have to do any additional research or find any other resources for this particular paper. However, if you happen to go online and read something, let's say on supertheory, that you would like to make reference to something from that document in your paper, then you should include that in your bibliography. But overall, you really only need to use the textbook as your resource for this particular assignment. Please write your responses to the questions in full sentences. It's important to note that you do need to proofread and check your work as carefully as you can. Up to 2 marks are deducted for spelling and grammatical errors, unclear wording, not meeting the recommended word count, and not providing citations. So you must provide clear citations for all of your statements in your analysis, providing references to the textbook, and, as I've mentioned, if there are any other resources you decide to consult to complete this assignment. But again, really you only have to use the material from the text. Please use APA style when embedding citations in your text and providing a bibliography. And there is a document posted under the plagiarism section that tells you how to cite your sources in APA style. It's very important that you understand that what's called generative ChatGPT or other AI platforms may not be used to write this assignment. In the orientation session, I have talked about the differences between assistive ChatGPT and generative ChatGPT. When you use generative forms of AI platforms, it means you're allowing them to write your assignment for you. And this is considered plagiarism, and it will result in a mark of 0. You may use AI platforms in an assistive manner to check your spelling and grammar, to provide, to be like a thesaurus, to provide you with alternate wording if you're looking for synonyms and so on. But all of the material that is written in your assignment must be written by you. Please do consult the instructions as you're working through the assignment carefully so that you stay on track. And please also read carefully the little hints and tips that I'm going to show you in the questions to help you avoid some of the common mistakes that students sometimes make when doing this assignment. It's very important before you start to do the assignment that you have read the chapters in the textbook so that you can apply those concepts to the case study for both parts. Now, I'm not going to read through this entire case study line by line. You can read through this on your own, but I will tell you that this is typical of the kind of information that you might gather from a client when you meet with them the first time. So it's not presented in any particular coherent manner. It's just this is the order of that the client presented her situation to you. And it's your job when you're working in the field to be able to analyze the information the client presents to you and then apply the concepts and the theories and the models that you're going to learn how to use through our program. So please do take the time to read through the case study carefully. And as I've said, for both parts, that it will be the same case study. What you really need to focus on is what are the different chapters and concepts from the textbook that you need to apply. So I will leave it to you to read through that case study, and I'm just going to skip ahead here to the questions for part 1. So it's due midnight Sunday at the end of week 3. If you download the course due dates, you'll see the exact date that it's due. And you're going to just prepare answers for each of these questions using the material covered in chapters 2, 4, and 5 of the textbook. So again, important that you read the chapters, you watch the videos, ensure that you really understand the concepts and theories. It's very important that you use those concepts from the textbook to guide your analysis. There are sometimes ideas and words used by theorists that may not have the same definition. If you just go and look up a general definition, it may not be the same as what the theorist's definition is. So make sure that you are referring directly to the theories and concepts from the chapters in the textbook. So question 1 is actually a very common question that you will need to consider when you're working with clients. What are the client's accomplishments, strengths, and skills? As you gather information about the client, you're going to learn the needs assessment, common assessment model, which will help you to gather this kind of information when you're working with your clients. So in this case, I'm asking you to once you read the case, to identify 3 accomplishments, strengths, or skills that stand out for you in the client's career. And you want to think about that acronym PULL, which was presented to you, I believe, in week 1, paid, unpaid, leisure, and or learning activities. So really examine the client's case using those ideas, paid, unpaid, leisure, and or learning, and then from there identify what seems to stand out as 3 of her accomplishments, strengths, or skills. Ensure that you clearly and fully explain how they are demonstrated in the client's story. So it wouldn't be enough to just say, well, the client's very good with people, end of sentence. Explain what you see in the story that seems to fit, if that is something that you think is a strength for the client. So give examples about information that you see in the case that illustrates these accomplishments, strengths, or skills that you've identified. So that's a total of 3 marks, 1 for each of the items that you identify, along with an explanation of how the story illustrates these factors. In question 2, you're going to think about Parsons' model. And in this case, we're only going to focus on steps 1 and 2. You learned about Parsons' model in, I believe, week 2. And we're going to help you or ask you to identify which step does the client appear to be in. Please ensure that you pick only one step. The client can only be in one step at a time. And so it's important that you identify, you understand what to look for those steps, and to clearly identify in the story how you know that the client is in that step. Identify the information that she needs to explore based on the step you have selected. So if you say she's in step 1 or you say she's in step 2, based on what you have learned in this about Parsons' model so far, identify 3 types of information that she might need to either learn about herself, if you say she's in the who am I stage, or 3 types of information she might need to explore the world of work based on the information shared in the case study and on the step you have chosen. Be careful not to mix these two steps up. The kind of information that's needed in step 1 is very different from the kind of information needed in step 2. So pick the step and stay focused on that step in your analysis in this particular section. In your discussion, clearly link the information that you recommend that she explore and gather to the step you've identified. In other words, explain how the 3 types of information she needs to learn about herself, which would be step 1, or that she needs to explore if she's in step 2, links directly to step 1 or 2 in Parsons' model. So again, you're coming up with 3 types of information, either in step 1 or step 2. So you get 3 marks for that question, 1 mark for each item with the explanation given, up to 3 marks. In question 3, we look at work adjustment theory, which lists 6 different values, and you will see these described on pages 97 to 99 of the textbook. You're asked in this question to identify 2 values that you see reflected in her story. In other words, what do you think she tends to value most of the 6 values that are outlined in the textbook? So it's very important that you are looking at those pages when you do this analysis. Sometimes students will say, well, she values her relationship with her family. Well, I'm sure she does, but that is not one of the values listed by work adjustment theory. So please ensure that you are consulting those pages directly. So what part of her story reflects the values that you've identified? So you need to explain. You can give 2 values, but you need to also provide explanation of what you're seeing in her story. What do you see described in the case that fits with those values? Please ensure that you use the names of the values listed on these pages. Students will sometimes make up their own labels or names for the values and then end up going off track because they may have changed the name just enough to give the value a different focus. So again, please just look at these values on this page and use those as you are doing your analysis in this section. So you will get a half a mark for each value that you identified. So 2 values equals 1 mark. And then you get 1 mark given if you provide a clear link between the value and the information in the case study. So 2 links to 2 values equals 2 marks. So that question is also worth 3 marks. Next, from work adjustment theory, we're going to look at the concepts of satisfaction and satisfactoriness. So those terms are defined under work adjustment theory. Again, please ensure you're working with those definitions, not just a general definition that you might find in just a normal dictionary. Make sure that you're making reference to the concepts as they're presented within the theory. So question 4, there are 2 parts to it. First, how would you assess the client's satisfaction with the office work job she held 10 years ago? Is it high, medium, or low? And why would you rate it that way? When you're assessing her satisfaction with the office work job, ensure that you focus only on the core duties that she was responsible for. You will see in the case that she took on a number of additional activities on her own initiative. These were outside of her primary office duties. So in other words, things like where she participated in managing the toy drive or training new employees or translating documents. Those were things that were all outside of her core job. So when you're rating her satisfaction with the office work job, focus only on the main duties that she was responsible for. So you get 1.5 marks for that, responding to that question, part A, and then part B looks at the other side of this satisfactoriness scale under work adjustment theory. In this case, how would you assess the client's satisfactoriness as an employee in the office job that she held? Again, high, medium, low, and why do you feel that's the case? What are you seeing in the case description that tells you what the client's satisfactoriness was? So again, please make direct reference to these concepts of satisfaction and satisfactoriness as they're described in the textbook at the bottom of page 94. So you get 1.5 marks for identifying the client's satisfaction and explaining your assessment, and 1.5 marks for identifying her satisfactoriness and explaining your assessment. So that adds up to 3 marks for that question. And then the last question you're going to address refers to Holland's theory of types, in which he presents 6 different types of codes. And again, these are covered in the textbook. So based on Holland's 6 codes and what you've learned about them from the textbook and the video lecture, what do you think might be the client's 3 preferred codes based on the activities that she describes enjoying the most in her life at the present time? when we work with clients, we always want to be focused on where are they now. So although we might want to know about their past and things that they enjoyed in the past, we want to make sure we're working with a clear snapshot of the client now. So pick only the top 3 codes that you think are strongest. Please do not provide analysis of all 6 codes in relation to the client. You will see when you look at Holland's model that we only work with the 3 strongest. And although you don't want to be, kind of guessing or being as if you know exactly the client's codes just from talking to them, as you listen to the client present their situation and describe their experiences, you might start to have some ideas about what Holland codes seem like they might fit best for this client. So I'm just asking you to make your best guess based on the case study and pick only the top 3 codes. Once you've identified those codes, please make clear links between the codes you select and the accomplishment, skills, and interests identified in her story. In other words, you're going to give clear examples from the case to support your choice of the Holland codes. For example, if you think one of her codes is realistic, and I'm not saying it is, but if you thought it was, what points do you see described in the case that appear to fit with this code? So provide your rationale for why you identified the codes that you did. And then the second part of this question is based on the 3 codes you select. In part A of this question, how well do you think Monique's past job in office work was a fit for her? So thinking about the codes that you've selected, how well did those fit? Do those fit with the role of doing an office job? Please include the concept of congruence, which is an important concept in Holland's model, in your response to this question. And again, another hint, a tip, focus only on the core responsibilities of her office worker job in assessing the fit and congruence with the codes. In other words, again, do not include the extra activities that she identified because those were outside of that core role. We want to think just about the office worker job. Does it really fit for this client? Remember that the Holland codes are not based just on skills, but also interests. In other words, a client might have the skill to do an activity, but not enjoy it or want to do it. So that's an important aspect to consider here. The client may have skills in a certain area, but reading the case, does it seem like she really enjoys those activities? Does she enjoy applying those skills? So here you get 1.5 marks for identifying the Holland codes and providing clear links to the accomplishment, skills in the client's story, and 1.5 marks given for your assessment and analysis of office work as a fit for the client based on the code selected, including the concept of congruence. So those are the questions that you'll be answering just for part 1. And as I said, I will do a separate video for part 2. I just want to scroll down to the end of this document because I always include a section on tips for success. And while I don't always go over this in every instruction package video, this is the first assignment that you're producing for the course, so I want to make sure that you understand what these tips are all about. I've already talked at length in the orientation course session on plagiarism, so I'm not going to read it all here, but please do not use ChatGPT to write your assignment. That is plagiarism straight up, and it's always easy to detect, and you will get a mark of 0 on the assignment. And I really, really don't like when I have to email a student to say that plagiarism was discovered in their assignment. It's one of the worst things I have to do in my role as a faculty, and I know when I'm emailing the student that I'm about to ruin their day. So please do not put either of us in that position. Just write your assignment yourself. And again, you see some reminders here of the difference between assistive ChatGPT and generative ChatGPT. Please submit your assignment directly to my email. Please don't post it anywhere. And please ensure that it is only submitted as a Word document so that I can download it and I can put feedback directly on the document to send back to you. Please don't submit it in any other format like PDF. I do not have the full PDF Adobe suite, so I can't easily insert corrections and comments. And also, please don't upload it to an external server like Dropbox or Google Docs, because then I'd have to go and download it. It adds a lot of extra steps. So I will send your assignment back to you if it's not in the correct format. So just ensure that I do get it in Word, and please do not lock or password protect your assignments, because then I can't input the feedback on them. Please ensure that you label your assignment with your name and the title of the assignment. So your name, and in this case, Case Study 1. It just it saves me a lot of headaches because I download a lot of the assignments all at once. And then if I'm trying to find a specific student's assignment and every one of them just says case study, I have to keep looking through them all until I find the one that I'm looking for. When you're doing your assignments, and this applies not just to this one, but really all of your assignments, if you have questions or sections, ensure that you respond to each one fully and separately. In this case, number each question so it's clear which one you're answering, and ensure that you respond to the points listed for each one. So do go back and double check as you're going through it. For example, there are several questions in this assignment that have a part A and part B, so make sure that you've addressed both of those sections in your response. This is also a very important point. Do not make any assumptions or add information that does not appear in the case description. Students will sometimes start to add in additional information that doesn't appear anywhere in the case, and might say, well, this person loves to travel and, go and see other countries. Well, that doesn't show up anywhere in the case. So only work with the information that's in the case study. Also note this is not a full-length essay. So a brief introduction and conclusion may be included, but they're not mandatory. You can just respond to each of the 5 questions. And please follow the recommended length of 700 to 900 words for each part. A few words over the maximum is okay, but it should be no more than about a half a page extra. I've literally had this assignment submitted to me in a document that was 15 pages long. And I can't mark that. It's just too much, and you've made a lot of extra work for yourself. So please try to follow the recommended length. Again, a little bit over, a little bit under is okay. If you're under 700 words, you probably may not have written quite enough for the assignment, so try to bump it up a little bit. If you get up to about 1,000 words, chances are you've said enough and you really don't have to write any more than that. Please do, as I've mentioned, spell check your work and, check it, make sure it's all written good. Well, you can easily use an AI platform to spell check and to correct your grammar and so on. But again, it can't be used to write any part or all of your assignment. And if you're having any concerns about your writing skills, we have an excellent tutoring and learning center available to you at the college that is completely free of charge. So I do encourage you to make use of that service if you feel it might be useful to you. And then lastly, just want to reemphasize the extension policy, which also appears on every course outline. 5% per day is deducted for submitting an assignment after the deadline if no extension is requested. I'm very flexible about giving extensions. I just ask that you let me know prior to the deadline. Please clearly identify the assignment and specify the date that you think you can submit the assignment. Students will sometimes say to me, when would you like the assignment? Well, I would like it, on the date that was originally given so that I can get it marked quickly. But if you're not able to do that, you know your workload better than I do. You pick the date that you think you can complete the assignment. And then this is considered a firm deadline. After that date, if the assignment still has not been received, the 5% per day deduction will be applied. But again, if you need an extension on the extension for some reason, then just let me know. And unfortunately, we're not able to send reminders. We do often get a lot of extension requests, and it's just not possible for us to keep track of that. So please keep track of your own extension dates that you select. And the requesting an extension in advance, this policy applies to all students, including those registered with accessibility services. So if you are to be given extensions as an accommodation through accessibility services, that's perfectly fine. You still need to let me know that you are going to take that extension. Sometimes students do get accommodations, but decide not to use them. So it's not an automatic thing. If you want an extension, just let me know. But you do not have to tell me the reason why you need an extension. This applies to everybody. If you want to tell me, that's certainly your prerogative, but you really don't have to tell me. So that's it for this part 1 of the case study assignment. Watch your eyes for a second. I'm just going to scroll all the way back up to the beginning. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to let me know. And thanks very much for watching.